Hello everybody, I'm Taluka and this is our first time doing a plan with me video. So I'm just going to wait for a few people to hop on so I'm not talking to myself. And I hope it tells me when people join in. So, all right, I have one viewer. So I started this group a couple of weeks ago and I'm pretty overwhelmed with the amount of people who have joined and the response that I've gotten. I'm really happy with it. So thanks for being here. And I hope that this is informative today. What you'll need to start is your template. Hopefully you're able to print it out. I have my overview right here and I have my 2 weeks. But I'm going to be focusing really on this second one because I'm on week 2 for unit 1. You'll also need your TRS, and then I always have this with me when I'm planning, my copy of the student text so that I can actually look through the stories. And then, so yeah, that's what you should have right now to get started. I saved myself a little bit of time and I recommend you do this also when you're planning an overview of a unit. If you go online and you click on your grade level and the unit, and then click on whole group weekly presentations, you'll find all of the organizers and all of the pages that go with your unit. And this is the first page on all of the links. So I have week 1, week 2, and week 3, just so that I don't have to keep flipping through this gigantic thing to see the overview for each week. So to get started, so I know people are there, leave me a comment and let me know one thing that you're hoping to get out of this video series, either today or in the future. Just to help guide me a little bit. Otherwise, I can talk for hours. Oh, let me get my highlighters. I can't plan without my highlighters. Okay. I have different colors. Color coding helps me a lot. This sheet, yes. Okay, so right now I just have one version of this template, and I have a variation up here. It says for weeks 2 and 3, kinder through 2nd grade has 2 shared reads and 1 extended read, and in 3 through 5 we only have 1 extended read. We don't have those 2 shared reads, so that's the big difference, and that's only for week 2 and 3. Week 1 it looks the same. Oh wait. Yeah, week 1 it looks the same. We have 2 shared reads and then 2 short reads. I think in kinder it's called mentor reads. And then personally, I don't do the read alouds, the additional read alouds, because I feel like we have more than enough text to pull from. So I didn't leave a space for that on here, but let me know if you'd like for me to add anything. Would you suggest doing phonics section before the reading? Yes. Yes, and I know some people have said, how can you introduce phonics on day 3 or day 4 or whatever the book suggests? I don't. I introduce it on Monday because I want them to be practicing the phonics and the language in the small groups for the week. And side note, I haven't started small groups yet. I'm going to start with Unit 2. It's fiction. It's a lot easier, and the kids are getting used to the curriculum still, so I'm taking my time with that. So today I'm not going to focus on small groups, just whole group instruction. Thank you, Tina. Thanks. Okay. So I'm going to start by looking at the overview of my unit. Last year I was highlighting in my TRS doing this, and this year I decided to not do that because I might not do the same thing every year. So I've printed these off myself from the website. Today you can just flip through your TRS and maybe use pencil or whatever to pull the information to put on here. So I'm going to start at week 1. And I see that for comprehension, the close reading skills are Let's do those in green. Key details and main idea, like always. Cause and effect. Graphic features chart, if I have time. Let's see. So go ahead and find yours too. See what your close reading and comprehension tasks are. I think that's, oh, I have sequencing also for week 1. So I already did week 1 last week, and I didn't get to sequencing. I just chose key details and cause and effect, because sequencing is something that I can do with anything pretty much. Okay, so that's for week 1. So I'm going to plug that into my organizer now. Is there any other way to access Benchmark Weekly paper you downloaded if I can't seem to log in? This thing, Annie? This is only on the website, like that. Otherwise, it's in your TRS. You're going to have to flip through, get your sticky notes ready. Okay, Unit 1. Here's week 1. All the mini lessons there. And then flip through, it's color coded. Here's week 2. See, last year I have all my highlights. And then week 3 is green. So that's what you can use. So now I'm going to pull those 3 comprehension skills and place them on my map. And then this is really going to help to see next to each other side by side what is spiraling, what's repeating, what can I push, what do I really need to focus on. So I know the first one's going to be key, what is it, details and main idea? Yeah. Main idea. Then I have cause and effect. And then sequencing. And I think I'm going to use this going across instead of down. So I'm going to flip to week 2 now and see what the big differences are. So for week 2, my green highlighter, I've got key details and summarizing, so slightly different than key details and main idea. Cause effect, again. Inferencing, that's new. And then that's it, right? That's it. So I'm going to write this down, key details, summarizing. So since I already did cause effect last week, I'm going to code my thinking with this little key right here, and I'm going to put a spiral to show I've done that already. So this would just be extra practice. I don't need to do a full-on lesson. I can just kind of touch on it. Say, remember what we did last week? That kind of thing. And then the key details and main he's got my baby in the other room and they're playing video games. Okay, back to it. So yeah, I spiraled cause and effect and key details. Summarizing is the only difference, so I might do a mini lesson on summarizing. And I'm going to put a little clock next to that if there's time, because summarizing is something that I know comes up a lot more than inferencing. So that's going to be my priority for next week. And then for week 3, Did you share that form you were using? This one is the same from yesterday. I had uploaded this, a version of it that was just these, and then I went back and I made this because I thought this would be more clear, and I re-uploaded it, but I did that within like 10 minutes. So if you were one of the first ones who downloaded this file before I added this, you might have to just go to click on My Purchases, and it'll say free downloads, and if you re-download it, it'll come up with this one. But what I'm basically doing is just looking at the unit all together and seeing how the weeks connect. Yeah, I'm back on. Go, go, go. Get out of here. Okay. So for week 3, my skills are key details and main idea again. And week 3, by the way, I don't know if your benchmark consultant told you or not, but the format is week 1 is I do, so it's very much teacher led. Week 2 is we do, and then week 3 is you do. So week 3 is going to be review a lot of the times. The skills are reviewed, especially like grammar and things like that. I've also got more main idea. Genre features, I might touch on that. Informational text genre features, subtitles, captions, that kind of thing. Annotate, paragraph planning, close read. That's really it for week 3. It's light. So key details, main idea. Genre features. So I'm gonna put a star next to genre features for informational. Okay, now that I have my close reading tasks all together, I can see what's really important and what I want to pick and choose to do. And the key details and main idea, I know for sure in like 3rd grade, we have that all year long. So if you don't get to it 1 week or even 2 weeks, it's not a big deal. Okay, so now I'm gonna go to the spelling and the phonics. I'll do that with blue. So week 1, it's short vowels. Week 2, it's long A, and week 3, it's long O. And last year I had a combo class, so if any of you have a combo class online on the website, there's a feature where you have this one planning sheet, and it's 4 combo classes, and it shows the skills side by side for both grades. And so for spelling and grammar in particular, I was able to teach a lot of those with both grades together because, for example, in week 1 for 3rd grade, I'd have short vowels, and then it would be week 3 for 2nd grade. So I would just kind of readjust them a little bit, and then that helped with saving time for sure. So I wasn't ping-ponging all day long with my 2nd and 3rd graders. The paper where I found the objectives. In the TRS, these are from the TRS, but they're on the website under whole group weekly presentations. You can also just look at them in here, but I don't like flipping through all day long, so it's a little bit easier for me to just print them off. But they're in here. It looks a little bit different, I guess, but it's all the same skills. Jessica, yes, it should be saving to the video, the Facebook page. I've never done a live video, so I don't know how these things work. And I kicked my husband off of the Wi-Fi, so hopefully it'll work a little bit better now. So I'm gonna put my skills in for spelling, and then I do the same for language and grammar. It's not called grammar, it's called language, so don't let that confuse you. And then the writing skill and the writing type, it's always going to be a narrative, informational, and an opinion, some form of those 3. So the kids are practicing each type of writing for every unit. And these writing tasks are meant to be just quick writes. I always tell the kids, like, we're not going to publish these. The purpose is to be able to analyze the prompt. So it's really more like reading comprehension. Can you read the writing task and understand from that what type of writing you're supposed to be doing? This isn't really where I'm teaching my writing instruction. And then the vocabulary focus. In the additional resources in the very back, there's, I think it's AR7, AR8. There's a vocabulary routine. So this is the way that you're supposed to teach vocabulary in context. If there's a word that you come across, you come up with a kid-friendly definition and have the kids practice reading it or using it. I don't do this. I teach them that there's no possible way for me to teach them every single vocabulary word in the entire world, and that they need to be able to look at any text and apply context clues. So that's really what I focus on every week with vocabulary. The list of vocabulary words that they give me, I ignore it because maybe my kids know those words already. Maybe there's other words that are confusing. So when they're annotating the text during the second read, I'm having them circle those words, and then that's when we talk about it. The next day we'll go back to those words and we'll find the clues in the context and come up with like other synonyms that would work there. So, and I don't do like write down the word, write down the definition, and here's your vocabulary test at the end of the week. Because I'm not testing them if they know the word, I'm testing them if they know how to attack a word. Okay, now let's go to week 2, because I'm on week 2 for unit 1. So for 3rd grade, on Monday, what I'm going to be doing is introducing the phonics, which is short vowels, and then the language, which is where's my regular verbs and verb tenses. So I typed it up to be in these little pamphlets so that I can use this as my way of teaching it, just a quick mini lesson, and then these are the activities they can do in their small groups eventually when I start the small groups. So I'm going to introduce that on Monday. And then for the short read number 1, I tell them we have 2 reads. The first read is my read aloud. I'm going to read it to them. And then the second read immediately after, and they have to read with their finger. The second read is their read, and they can read with their pencils. They're reading it in their mind, and they're annotating all over it. And then the third read is the close read, and we're not going to do that until the next day, because then otherwise it would just be too much. After they do the first 2 reads of the short read, we're going to analyze the writing prompt. So I actually took a picture of what it looked like this week. I can upload it afterwards. So I wrote down the writing prompt on a poster because I'm trained in Project GLAD, so I'm very much anchor charts everywhere. And then I wrote down on the side the 3 things that I wanted them to look for. What's the main topic? What type of writing is this? And what information do I need from the source? So we picked it apart, we analyzed it, we spent like maybe 10 minutes on that, and then we didn't actually start writing. We don't start writing on Mondays. So we're just analyzing the prompt. And let me see here. Do you only follow benchmark writing 3-week cycle? If not, how do you fit in genre-specific process writing? No, I also teach my own writing. For full-blown writing units, I do my own stuff, but I do make sure to touch on these little weekly writings. Those are just going to go in their reader response journals. I'm not even going to edit those or anything. They're not going to publish. But the specific like unit-long writing that I do is different. Where is the language grammar skill? It's going to be on your overview, and it's embedded in writing. So where is my writing? Okay, so it's hiding. So for example, in week 1 right here, it says number 12, draft elements of a letter, objectives, writing exemplar, and then concrete and abstract nouns. There's your language. I don't know why they don't just put it at the top, but I do know why. It's because they want you to teach it in the context of writing and not in isolation. So that's where you can find it, hiding. Hello, LAUSD teacher. I used to be an LAUSD teacher. All right. Moving on to Tuesday, that's when they're going to be doing their third read. So my mini lesson for my third read is going to be that cause and effect, right? Because that's my skill for week 2. So I'm going to apply the text to teach that cause and effect review. So that's what my first mini lesson is going to be on after they do their close read. And then I want to make sure that I'm going back and I'm acknowledging the words that they've circled when they've annotated from the day before. So whatever they've circled, whatever they need help with, we're going to go back and we're going to use context clues to figure out those meanings. After that, I'm going to revisit our writing prompt and remind them that they need evidence from their source. Pretty sure that with every writing assignment in Benchmark, they have to go back to the source. I think that's the whole point. So that's what I'm going to be doing on Tuesdays, every Tuesday. I teach them that they can lift a line if it works in their writing. Otherwise, they can kind of paraphrase and say, like in the text, I learned blah, 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 or whatever. And the way that I have them do that is go back and highlight lines that they want to lift for their writing. And then after that, mini spelling and language again, just so it's touched on again, super short. And then the small groups eventually. Okay, let's see. Language focus is going to be verb tenses. Let me just catch up with my own chart. So then Wednesday, now that you've had 2 mini lessons on the spelling and the grammar, you can use it in context. So there's going to be a word study text at the end of each week. It's the last story. It's 1 page. It's word study up on the top. Let me show you. This is meant specifically for being little text detectives and finding the skills. So word study. This is what I'm going to have them do Wednesday now that they know our phonics, they know our language skill, and they can literally go through. I have them do it with a partner, and they just love it. They go highlighter crazy, and they find all the short A's or whatever the skill is. And this is just for them to practice, additional practice. These pamphlets that I have are obviously not in context. They're just kind of like worksheet practices. And then this is in context. So I always make sure I want to incorporate that somehow. Then it's time for the shared read. We're back at the first 2 reads. So the first read's me reading it aloud. Second read is the kids and they're annotating. It's that new story now. And then Wednesday, ideally, they're going to start drafting. I want them to start using that evidence that they found and start drafting their response to the prompt. And then my plan when I get small groups up and running is to have them start drafting and then have it be a small group center. Makes sense. Thursday, we're going to do the second read for short read number 2, and the third read, and then that's the read where we have a close reading task, so we're doing it together. And a lot of the times when we start getting into those longer texts, those longer stories, and I'm doing a close read, I'm not going to read the whole entire thing. We're going to apply that mini lesson to maybe 1 page of it or a couple paragraphs of it, and that's it. If you're an LUSD teacher, our planning paper looks different. Are you talking about this? Should be for everyone. Small groups, Ashley, I don't have those up and running yet, but I did talk to Atosa from my district, and I'm going to book her to come and help me get those up and running, and we'll take a video and eventually put it on here so you guys can see what we're doing in our centers. Did you already address how much time you teach Benchmark each day? No, thank you, Ruben. I teach it from 10:40 to 12 o'clock. So I've got an hour and 20. And I think I have it budgeted so that I'm doing small groups for the last 30 minutes. So that might adjust the weekly one. So that if yours looks different, make sure you're using, are you talking about this? Like your TRS weekly view looks different in this? I'm not really sure why it would look different for an LUSD teacher, but a friend of mine who works for LUSD is coming over tomorrow, so I'll have her bring all her stuff and I'll look at it side by side. Does that sound good? My student population, I have so many IEPs this year. I don't even know. I feel like half of my class, because I did flexible seating this year, and so my principal was like, here. So I think I have like 9 IEPs, and then my ELs, we group them, we cluster them. I don't have the EL population this year. It's the same one I was wanting, the focus skills page for all 3 weeks. There's another thing that you can access online if you're not able to follow along with me. There's a program structure button. If you log in, there's a tab that says program support, and then you're going to see something I think that says program structure. I just found it today, and you'll see your scope and sequence. Okay, yeah, Nina, thank you. So the paper that you print out online looks different than what's in here, but it's the same information. Just the layout's a little different. All right, where am I? So I'm back to my next mini lesson on Thursday using that second text. And I'm going to be doing inferencing. So for me, for 3rd grade, at this point, they're going to be reading something about Alice Paul. We've got this really long story about MLK and Cesar Chavez, Alice Paul, and Rosa Parks. For my close reads, I'm going to focus on Alice Paul because she's the one that people don't know about. We learn about MLK all the time, you know, and Cesar Chavez and Rosa Parks. So Alice Paul is what we're going to really dig into. And then for my inferencing mini lesson, here's the Project Glad in me. I brought this home. I prepped it already. Don't laugh at my picture. I drew, as best as I could, Alice Paul in the middle. She kind of looks like the skeleton version of Alice Paul. And then it says I am. So I'm going to have the kids read about her section, and then we're going to come up with some character traits. Obviously, it's not going to explicitly state her character traits, so they're going to have to infer. And we're going to write the character traits around her floating head. And then I'm going to choose maybe 4 of my favorite ones, and I'm going to say, okay, prove it. And I'll go back to the text and prove it. Lift a line that proves that she's determined or organized. Hopefully they come up with good words like that. So that's how I'm going to teach inferencing. Don't be afraid to pull in your own stuff and make it more fun for you. It doesn't always need to be, you know, on the Elmo following along with the doc reader. Okay. And then again, after that close read, I want to acknowledge the vocabulary that my students circled in their annotations and teach those in context. Continue drafting. And then there's room for another mini lesson here, ideally. That's where I might bring in that, key details and summarizing that part that I put a little watch next to, a clock. If there's time, then I'll do that. But otherwise, I'm not going to stress it if there's not time. I'm only human. And then lastly, on Friday, you have your assessment. And where's mine? Printed it out. Oh, wait. Thursday, also, I have the text-dependent questions. I plan on only doing this in the beginning of the year, teaching them how to answer text-dependent questions. So a lot of you have my bookmarks already. These go with every story. But the purpose is to teach them that they have to go back to the text and find the answers within the text. And this really drives me nuts in the beginning of the year because they'll try to answer these without opening their books. I'm like, no, you're not a magician with master memory. Like, go back and find the answer. So I'm going to be teaching that on Thursday, and then for the next few Thursdays as long as I need to. And then eventually I want this to just become a small group task. So this is really great for them to just keep in their reader, and then it's something for them to do. The week 1 assessment, week 2 assessment. So I have mine printed off. For the first unit, I'm doing these with them. They're not allowed to go and take this by themselves because they're going to bomb it. Even if your lessons were great that first couple weeks or whatever, and they take their tests, they're going to bomb it, and you're going to scare the parents. So what I do is we do our two reads, I read it for now. And then the second read, they're going to annotate all over it. And I encourage them to write those notes in the margins. That way when they finally do start getting to the questions, they can kind of remember where certain things are. Just a quick overview of the assessments and benchmark. You're always going to see a part A and a part B. I say part A is the top of your table. Part B are the legs. It goes together, it builds, it supports, okay? So, and then I always show them that their benchmark's going to try to trick them. There's going to be two options from both that kind of support each other, but they have to choose the best option. So we work through, I do my think aloud, and we work through and we cross off the ones that are for sure not the answer, and then we narrow it down to two, and depending on what it's asking, then we choose one. And then benchmark also likes to do these, select 3. So if you're going to select 2 or select 1 because you're not reading the directions, you're going to get points off there. So I like to point that out to them. And then these ones are phonics. So it's in paragraph 1, the A in AI in painting is pronounced the same as the A in, and I tell them they're allowed to whisper it to themselves because otherwise it's really hard to. And in 2nd grade, you're allowed to read it to them. I know that from last year. And then there's, week 2 doesn't have this question, but week 1 might. There are ones that you need to check off multiple boxes, so I point that out to them that they have to check off all of them. And then there are these types of questions where they're sequencing. They need to put the number 1, 2, 3 next to the ones they select. So these are tough questions. Even if they get the skill, they're going to need help. They're going to need you to walk them through these. And then, as always, like, we don't base our entire grade off of these. So these are good resource for you to gauge how your students are doing, but also take into consideration, you know, your informal assessments and other things. Also on Friday, if you have time, you can have them do some of the reflection questions. There's this page, Build, Reflect, Write. I think this is supposed to be for the beginning of the next week, like as a review. So like before starting your instruction on Monday, they review the week prior. I do it on Friday if I have time. And then there's like a cross-tech connection usually. So for this week, it's going to be comparing and contrasting. So what I'm going to do is take Alice Paul and Rosa Parks, draw these on my whiteboard, and then have the kids use Post-it notes and come up and put the Post-it notes on the Venn diagram on the whiteboard. This is also how I like to teach phonics in the beginning. I put the different patterns on the whiteboard, and they can come up and look around. I actually got this idea from my colleague. Look around the room for words that follow that skill, that spelling pattern, and then put it on using Post-its. So that's more fun. Okay, let's look at comments for a second. Okay, writing at another time. Okay, I teach writing using something I made called the Big Cheese. I got the initial idea from my mentor teacher years ago, and we write about each other each week, and that's really how I teach writing structure and editing and revising all together. And then I try to incorporate bigger writing assignments with each unit and do like one writing assignment. For example, last year with Unit 3, our focus was on life sciences, and we did this whole animal research report. Unit 4 was point of view, and we did like the 3 little pigs and the true story of the 3 little pigs, and we had this class debate, and they had to write an opinion essay for that. So I just kind of weave it in as best I can, and I don't usually use my ELA block for that writing. So at the end of the day, we're on a block schedule. So the last part of my day, we have all our specials, and then I try to squeeze in social studies, science, writing. But the cool thing about benchmark is a lot of your social studies and science is going to come during ELA also. Thank you, Kristen. What special things do you use to have them annotate in their book? I have my text annotation posters. You can download those for free. So it teaches them the symbols that I like to use, and they just use pencils for that, their pencil. And then when they're doing their word study or they're going back to find evidence for their writing, that's when they get to use the highlighter. So the highlighter is reserved for special occasions. Is lift a line a strategy for second also? I did it with my second graders last year, but I don't have the second grade TE in front of me. As a third grade teacher, I would love if my kids knew what I was talking about when I said to go back to the text, lift a line, or give me evidence. Cite the evidence. Kristen, I agree with assessment issue. I don't modify the assessments, no. No, I try to, actually, the weekly assessments, they reflect whatever's taught that week. So if there's something that's not taught, I let them know and I say, do your best. And then I look to see if I really need to focus on that skill. If they're getting it all right and it's not something I've taught, then I know I don't need to spend much time on it. But they're your assessments. It's a tool for you to help gauge your students. So if you won't need to modify them, you have that freedom to. Are you modeling the annotations? Yes, in the beginning of the year, I taught explicitly how to annotate text. And now I don't need to. The kids got it. No, so Kelly, allowed to read the entire assessment for second? No, the parts that are phonics related, you do read those aloud so that they can hear the spelling skill. The rest of it, no, unless they've got, accommodations in their IEP, which I could probably read all these tests aloud because of all my IEPs. Let's see. Writing, yep, Teresa, if there's anything more about writing that you want me to answer, let me know. Do your 5 days always follow a Monday through Friday schedule? How do your assessment days work? Okay, Eliza, no, the answer is no, because a lot of the times we're going to have an assembly or a fire drill, or we don't have school Monday, or another thing is I work a lot with my district doing, I'm on different leadership committees, and so I'm out all the time. So I have to definitely modify my schedule so that my sub's teaching easy stuff when I'm gone. So this is kind of to help you plan it out, because I know a lot of you are feeling overwhelmed with how do I fit everything in. But I don't use this anymore, and I just kind of adapt. I teach on Friday, or I give the test Fridays because that's what works for me. The unit test, so that week 3 test, is gigantic. So I give it over the course of the 4th week. I don't give it to them all in one sitting. So I have them do like 8 problems a day that 4th week, along with the inquiry-based project, because I love project-based learning, so I incorporate that every unit. Do you test the domain-specific vocabulary? Hope, no, I don't. Because I just want to know that they know how to apply context clues, that skill, because, your word might be protest, but half my class knows that already and half don't. It's hard to teach every single word in the English language, but if I give them the strategies for decoding that text, then that's what's more important to me. You can do like fun assessments probably, like what was the one I did the other day with the kids? I got up in front of the class and I said, I'm so tired, my feet hurt, I've been shmugga all day. And I said, what's shmugga mean? Working. Okay, context clues. There you go. Thank you, Kristen. Focus wall and my annotating posters. Thank you. Benchmark mini lessons, I try to do 3 a week, Cindy. the close reading mini lessons, about 3 of those. Teresa, these planning sheets are available on my TPT for free. You can go and download them, markers and minions. Oh, thanks, Cindy. Build language is identify collective nouns. Oh, it says collective nouns and commas and greetings. Some of them have, I've been noticing that too. I've done these pamphlets for 2nd and 3rd grade now, and I am noticing that some weeks, for example, Unit 1, Week 3, this is 3rd grade, has 2 language skills, subject, verb, agreement, and capitalized titles. So some of them. And then I'm also noticing that Week 3 grammar is usually a review. So you're not getting any new ones that 3rd week, typically. So hope that answers your question, Tina. What else? Next week, I have planned I'm starting my inquiry-based project. Normally, I spend that 4th week doing the inquiry-based project, but for this one, it's really long. It involves collaboration with others. So I'm going to be starting that next week in the afternoons after our specials. And it's an improve the community or improve the school project. Where did I put that? So I have it also on my TPT if you wanted to follow along and do it. It's from the Digital Ideas from Benchmark. All of the things I make are Benchmark. So I never supplement. I just use what Benchmark gives me and I make it a little bit more teacher friendly. And so I'm going to have my kids do an improve the community project, and we're going to start brainstorming on Monday and ways that they can improve their community. I secretly want them to address the issue of homelessness, so we're going to keep brainstorming until one of my kids says, oh, let's help the homeless. And so then we're going to be doing, they're going to come up with like an action plan, which is also very Project GLAD, if you're Project GLAD. And the action plan is kind of like their proposal, and then they have to find their solutions. So what's their guiding question first? That's the inquiry-based aspect of this. And then what are 2 ways to solve the problem? You can teach about pros and cons. And then from there, they have to create a plan. What materials are they going to need, and who are they going to need to collaborate with? So for this project in particular, I did it last year, and so I want it to be a yearly thing. We're going to donate to the Temporary Aid Center, and then I always have our mayor help us out. And then this is kind of like a timeline. And then here's their official proposal, because with every inquiry-based project, they have to get up and present. And so it's speaking and listening skills as well. So this is what they're going to be reading to their classmates, and then they can write down any feedback that they get. And then this is the letter they're going to write to the mayor asking if he'd like to collaborate with them, which is also an aspect of the inquiry-based project. A big part of it is they need to pool resources and collaborate with others. And then this is it comes at a great time because we have, Houston and Hurricane Irma, and so there's a lot of things that the kids can do to find solutions in a real world context. Anything else I can do for you guys, let me know. If you have any suggestions, please don't reproduce this, but if you have any modifications so that it can fit your needs better, just send me a direct message so that I can make sure to see it, and then I'll upload other versions of this to better adapt your grade level. And then if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. I've got, for my kinder teachers, my kinder friend, I'm pulling it up. No, I don't want to update my phone. She sent me her daily schedule. So she says, okay. For shared reading, she says it worked well at the beginning of the year until November and December. After that, it got too simple. That's a good thing. They got used to it. This year, I'm going to be using shared readings in my small groups as independent work. The students can highlight sight words and draw a favorite part of the story. So this is kinder. Mentor reading, last year I did all the stories. I had to hit all the objectives like a maniac. I found out from Jen Almer that we didn't have to teach all the stories. Yep, so now she's picking and choosing. I use half the stories, but I go deeper into the concepts. That's close reading. Writing, she did collaborative writing as benchmarks suggest. It was hard for her kinder kids at first because they didn't know what all the words, she says, they didn't know what the heck all the words I was writing were. She's going to try writing simple sentences this year as a response to the reading. Student sets. Okay, she says the guided reading books and the student sets, this is for all grades. They're fantastic. So you'll want to definitely pull those into your small groups. Those are leveled by guided reading level, Fountains Pen Out, or Lexile level. Let's see, they have wonderful sets of books. I especially like using those and the Reader's Theater books. She says were good for her really low kids, or low kinders. So, hope that helps. Thanks for tuning in. Let me know what I can do for you next week. Thank you.